So I just watched the Five Nights at Freddy's movie where a guy named Mike Schmidt is struggling to get a job until he's offered a nice security job at a place called Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria, and his dreams and visions start to clear up for what happened in the past and how it connects to the pizzeria and its mascots. That's all I can say for a spoiler-free review. I want to talk about spoilers really bad, but I know a lot of fans really want to watch this movie, so I'm going to save you guys the entertainment. And I probably should mention that ever since the beginning of FNAF, I've known the existence of the franchise. I just never really got into it, but I appreciated it for what it was until earlier this year when I decided to dive into the lore and watch a lot of the gameplay. And I just fell in love with the franchise from there on. So, technically, this review is from a fan's perspective of the movie. So, I might say some stuff that not a lot of people will agree with, and hopefully I'm not going to be completely biased here. So, yeah. But now let's get into what I actually liked about this movie. Obviously, we got to talk about the animatronics first. Ever since 2014, they've been the stars of the entire franchise, and whoever puppeteered them deserves a massive raise. Every time they were on screen, I was filled with joy with a smile on my face. And I never really talk about the score in movies besides Transformers and Spider-Verse, but somehow the score in here was actually really good. It kept me in suspense for most of the movie, and the opening credits theme is a banger, dude. And the music also kind of helped build that eerie, creepy atmosphere just like in the games, in my opinion. So I thought they did that pretty well. As for the human characters, Mike Schmidt, the one who is supposedly taking the night shift even in the games, even though we know it's Michael Afton, is someone who went through so much trauma and has so much guilt on his shoulders. However, throughout the movie, his character develops to where all that guilt and trauma is let loose a little. And I say there's some emotional stuff in the movie that's handled pretty well. There's this dynamic between Mike Schmidt and his sister, and for what they did with it, I thought that it was pretty well handled. Further in the film, there's a great conflict between Mike and Abby, which I thought was handled pretty well, and it was what helped lead to the end of the movie. So, yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Also, we gotta talk about Vanessa in this movie. She was a nice character, that's all I gotta say. If she's familiar to you, she's the security guard from Security Breach. This character actually has a dark, mysterious history with the pizzeria, which later unfolds into a plot twist toward the end of the movie, which I was not expecting, but I want to see how they would handle this in the next movie or so. Now on to the big cheese. Steve Raglan, aka William Afton, played by Matthew Lillard. The same guy who was Shaggy in the OG live-action Scooby-Doo movie.
Are you challenging me? Maybe.
Honestly, I thought Matthew Lillard did really well as William Afton, and when he put on that spring bodysuit, it was awesome. But even with all the awesomeness in this movie, there are still some things that I was mixed on it. Like I said with William Afton, as much as I loved seeing him in that spring bodysuit, he only got a little bit of screen time in there. And honestly, I felt like it should have been a longer sequence in the third act when he was in it, so it would have been a little more exciting, and the ending of the movie could have been a little more developed. As much as the movie kept me in suspense, I want to talk about the horror in this movie. And mostly what FNAF is most famous for, the jump scares. And I know it's supposed to be PG-13 and all. I feel like they should have pushed it a little more further, enough to where it's barely PG-13. Foxy running down the halls, the cupcake jump scare, that was cool. But for most of the kills that were off screen, I kind of wish they showed it a little. I feel like they could have done what Guardians 3 did when Rocket was just clawing the High Evolutionary's face. It's not even like they're showing all the blood and everything. It's just a quick flash shot between Rocket and like the eyes of the High Evolutionary's face. I feel like if they'd done that, it could have made the movie a little more entertaining. But I think what came in clutch with the off-screen kills was the sound design and effects. Say that when you're hearing the bones crushing and the flesh squishing, I don't know how to say it, but all of that, once the camera is aiming at something else for an off-screen kill and you hear those sound effects, it does put some of the horror to it, I guess. But still, I feel like they could have shown a little bit, or at least pushed it a little further to where it was barely PG-13. Probably just me, though. Another thing I want to bring up is, though, The FNAF movie is something that I think the fans would like more than the general audience would. In the movie, there's a lot going on, which I think fans might think is cool because it's just like the lore, and the lore has always been all over the place, so fans would be able to forgive it for that. But anyone who wants to watch the new horror movie is want to go for the killer animatronics, and I don't know about the whole dramatic story with Mike Schmidt and everything. And when they see the killer animatronics, there's this one scene where they're gonna get ticked off or just shocked that they're kind of a little bit of something else because of this one scene. And I'm gonna just say this right now. That one scene I thought was wholesome, given the context in the lore and this movie. But everyone else is gonna be confused on what they're watching. Like I said, Vanessa has a mysterious, dark history with the pizzeria, and all you hear when she's just kind of like wandering around the pizzeria, kind of just looking back of what she remembers. It's only a bunch of screams in the background and everything, and a bunch of sound effects. When I feel like they should have filmed some scenes to where it could showcase what Vanessa experienced. Kind of like with Mike Schmidt, with his backstory and everything, I felt like they could have done the same with Vanessa. Might be just me though, but I feel like it could have had a little more emphasis on the story. Overall, the third act was just a little underdeveloped for me. Also, why was Golden Freddy in only a couple of minutes in this movie? But even with all of that, I'm so glad we got to see a Five Nights at Freddy's movie on the big screen. Unless you have Peacock, of course. I'll give the movie an 80% on the score. Even with the flaws, I had such a good time. The movie kept me in suspense for most of the movie thanks to the soundtrack. And it's a little special for me since it's my first time seeing a movie in the horror genre in the theater. Do I recommend it? Yes. However, if you're not familiar with the franchise, you might want to see it with someone who is familiar with it and is familiar with the lore as well, so they could fill you in on the backstory and what to expect and all of that. Before I end it off real quick, I just want to let you guys know that the FNAF movie has its own take on the lore. I'm not gonna say anything else, but all I gotta say is it has its own spin on the lore. They take some parts from it, and I want to say they take some inspiration from the books as well. I don't really know, but they take inspiration from the lore and they put it into the movie, but they kind of make their own changes to it. So expect the unexpected, if I do say so myself, because I have seen some fans that have been pretty mad for what they changed in the movie. So that's all I gotta say. But thank you guys for watching the video. Make sure you do leave a like and subscribe, and follow me on Twitch if you can. I should get to playing Sonic Superstars soon, and I'll see you guys next time.